tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
I have heard, unfortunately, about holiday celebrations being planned, some for several hundreds of people.
The problem is that she did not ask for our opinion.
Another explanation and further frustrations. Restaurants want to know why they weren't given more than a day's notice to brace for New Year's Eve liquor restrictions. Also,
to roll it out properly, a week is not enough time. That is quite clear.
Canada's stricter COVID screening measures for airline passengers take effect in 1 week. Airlines say it's not enough time to adapt. And
people just have a few questions regarding things that didn't exist in 2019.
From taxes to workplaces, how the pandemic is morphing a new way of doing things in 2021 and beyond.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on this New Year's Eve. BC restaurants are dealing with the fallout from a curveball thrown yesterday after a new health order was brought in banning alcohol service after 8 o'clock tonight. Well, today health officials faced a lot of questions about this new rule. Our Andrea Ross joins us live with more. So, Andrea, what did health officials have to say today about why this rule was suddenly put into place?
Well, they're trying to start 2021 off on the right foot. Dr. Bonnie Henry says COVID-19 numbers are trending in the right direction now, but BC is still in a precarious situation. She says stopping liquor service at 8 tonight is meant to prevent things from getting out of hand. As the alcohol flows and the night wears on, she says people can start to bend the rules meant to keep them safe.
What can begin as a quiet dinner with our household or a drink with a friend can too easily get out of control. And sadly, we have seen that happen even in the past few weeks. When that happens, rules can be forgotten, and servers and restaurant staff are the ones who must enforce these rules for the safety of everyone.
Now, although the order was made yesterday afternoon, Henry denies it came out of the blue. She says the 8 o'clock last call time still allows diners to have a meal and a drink at a restaurant.
So for the past 24 hours that we've been hearing about the impact this will have on restaurants, any indication the province might step in to help?
Well, Henry said she hopes people still support restaurants by ordering takeout tonight or dining in this weekend. But restaurants say that doesn't help servers who rely on tips tonight. Reservations after 8 o'clock are being canceled, and thousands of dollars in perishable food meant for tonight, like seafood, won't last for days. Here's what Health Minister Adrian Dix said when I asked him whether his government would compensate those restaurants for lost revenue.
It's not our expectation that we'll be directly compensating, no. But I would say this, that I think that the order, given what we know, is a necessary step to control the transmission of COVID-19.
Dix noted BC is one of the few jurisdictions still serving diners indoors. Health officials say this is a one-night sacrifice that could make a big difference in the coming weeks. Tanya?
All right, thanks so much. That's our Andrea Ross reporting live for us tonight. And as Andrea mentioned, some restaurants have been urgently trying to adjust to the new public health order this New Year's Eve. And after struggling all through the pandemic, now they're having to scramble with last-minute cancellations. Our Mira Baines is finding out what this will mean for the bottom lines on one of the biggest nights of the year.
All across the province, special dishes and cocktails are being prepared for New Year's Eve. But this restaurant is also now scrambling to deal with cancelled reservations.
Cancellations left and right.
CEO of the global group of restaurants, Imad Yacoub, says he was blindsided by the sudden booze restrictions. The public health order was announced yesterday afternoon and bans alcohol sales at restaurants, pubs and liquor stores after 8 p.m.
Give us 2-3 days leeway. None of the restaurant will order the food, brought the staff.
Yacoub isn't so concerned about extra liquor brought in. It can be saved for another time. But because of dinner cancellations, he's already lost about $35,000 spent on fresh food that will now go to waste.
It's the perishable food that we brought in. It's the fish, it's the meat, it's the vegetable that we brought it in and we prepped it. And now we can sell it. That's the problem.
He says insurance won't cover the loss since it's only a one-day order and not a 48-hour disruption in service. Yaqub is trying to salvage some sales by opening 3 restaurants in his chain tomorrow that would have otherwise been closed on New Year's Day. Reaction to the new public health order is mixed.
You know, I do think it's for the best, just because people's inhibitions go down, you know.
Closing the liquor stores and closing the restaurants earlier, it's going to prevent people from getting together, honestly.
Like our age, 25 and over, for sure they're going to do like house parties.
Yeah. This was the scene on Vancouver's Granville Entertainment Strip on Halloween night. Hundreds of partiers gathered after restaurants and bars closed. This New Year's Eve, Vancouver police say they'll be enforcing laws against public drinking and responding to complaints of house parties.
So on the policing front, we are going to have extra officers out tonight. As we would every New Year's, they're going to be focused on the Granville Entertainment District as well as Gastown.
Long lineups stretched outside many liquor stores ahead of tonight's early last call for liquor. As 2020 winds down, the restaurant industry is banking on people shifting their dollars to takeout orders instead of canceling altogether. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
This all comes on a day that has seen another 8 people die due to the virus. The majority of them are seniors in long-term care homes, and that means a total of 901 people have now died from COVID-19 in BC. In the past 24 hours, there have been 683 new cases of the virus, and that brings the overall total in our province to just short of 52,000. Right now, 374 people are in the hospital. Of them, 76 are in critical or intensive care. Just over 7,800 people currently have COVID-19 in BC, and about 17,500 people have now been immunized province-wide. Well, starting 1 week from tonight, air travelers will need to test negative for COVID-19 before entering Canada. But airlines say a week is not enough time for them to adapt to the newly announced screening measures. Ashley Burke now on the latest turbulence between the airline industry and the federal government.
Carol Cummings is trying to get a hold of her friends in Barbados for answers, where to get a COVID test during her trip this month to what she calls her second home.
It's kind of like going to the cottage here, but it's just a farther trip.
Cummings has traveled to Barbados almost every year since the 70s. She feels it's safe there and isn't letting COVID-19 or these new requirements stop her from going this year too.
Myself, my friends, my family, we've all been good here. We've followed the rules. We've quarantined, we haven't got together. So I think we can do that in another country, especially one who's taking care of their people too.
But the Minister of Transport disagreed.
She may feel that she's not taking additional risk, but she is exposing Canadians to additional risk.
Marc Arnault stressed today non-essential travel is not recommended and announced new requirements that come into effect in a week that could deter other travelers. Anyone 5 or older will have to show proof of a negative COVID test taken within 72 hours before boarding a flight home to Canada.
If they haven't got the test result and there are clinics available, they will have to reschedule their departure because they won't be allowed on board.
But if travelers can show there was nowhere to get a test abroad, they can still fly home. But new rules require them to quarantine in Canada at a federally regulated facility.
To roll it out properly, a week is not enough time.
Frustrated airlines have been pushing the federal government for 6 months to start testing at airports in Canada and said they weren't consulted about the new requirements, nor did they get the details they need during talks today.
That time frame is not going to be sufficient to do this properly, and I think you're going to see a great deal of confusion.
Confusion for airlines and passengers, some now scrambling to find places to get tested abroad. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
To other news now, in Vancouver, police are looking for witnesses to a violent attack that happened Tuesday. It involved a shoplifting suspect assaulting a London Drugs employee.
The suspect used bear mace against one of the store employees, which hit her directly in the face. Officers did arrive on scene within minutes, but unfortunately they were unable to locate the suspect.
Police say a man walked into their flagship store at Granville in West Georgia at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He appeared to be shopping for vitamins, but when security staff noticed he was putting the bottles into his backpack without paying, they confronted him. VPD say that's when the man attacked the staff member. Investigators are now looking for a white man in his 40s or 50s, about 5 foot 5 inches tall with an average build. He was wearing a black hooded sweater with a black jacket, dark blue jeans, and a baseball cap with a yellow brim. trim. The suspect was also wearing a blue medical mask and carrying a black backpack. Well, one person had to be airlifted to the hospital and is in critical condition tonight after a fire broke out this afternoon at an apartment complex in Duncan. 7 others were taken to the hospital, one of them in serious condition. These flames broke out around 1 o'clock this afternoon, and at this stage, it is still active. Departments from 5 different districts are assisting in trying to put out those flames. No word yet on what might have caused the fire to ignite. And an early morning fire in Burnaby forced people living in an apartment building there to leave their homes. This one happened shortly after 1 a.m. The fire was contained to the unit, but there is smoke damage to the entire building, and residents were forced to leave. 3 people were taken to the hospital, 2 of them in serious condition. Investigators there also trying to determine the cause of that blaze. And let's welcome back our meteorologist, Johanna Wagstaffe. I hope you enjoyed your break, Johanna.
Thank you. Yes, it was nice to be off, but nice to be spending New Year's Eve with you, Tanya. It's true.
I'm flattered. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. And today, I was thinking it was so dreary and drizzly. I figured what a fitting way to end 2020 on the final day.
You nailed it. Yeah. And I wish that I could say tomorrow, high pressure as far as the eye can see, but instead, take a look at the warnings I have to get you through. It's like Mother Nature didn't know we were flipping the calendar. We have rainfall warnings in place tonight, 40 to 60 millimeters for northern ends of Metro Vancouver. Very windy on the east side of the island, over 110 millimeters for the west side, and snowfall warnings for the Coquihalla. This is for a system that has yet to cross the strait. We're starting to see the leading edge of this storm bring heavy rain to the west side of the island. I think it's going to be another couple of hours before it really fills in for us. The center of this very strong low pressure system is sitting off in the Pacific. We've got a good day to get through this rain. Again, I think the heavy stuff will start around 10, 11 p.m. I will time it out coming up, and I promise I will get us through to some 2021 blue skies, Tanya.
We will certainly look forward to that part. Thanks so much, Joe. We'll talk to you soon. Well, Canadians are about to start a new tax year, among other things, and it'll be a very different one at that. Many will be summing up the impact that COVID-19 had on their 2020 returns. And as Susanna De Silva reports, some are already calling for certain pandemic measures to continue into 2021.
There is a lot of uncertainty surrounding 2021, but accountant Joey Walia is sure of one thing. He is going to be busy.
We're already starting to get a lot of calls. People just have a few questions regarding things that didn't exist in 2019.
After more than a decade in the tax business, he is fielding more calls than ever before from individuals who normally file themselves with questions about various government assistance programs, including the CERB, which will be taxed as income.
So advice to folks, there's going to be tax bill. Set aside about 18% to 22% of CERB that they have received, because there is going to be that tax bill for sure.
But for the millions more Canadians working from home in 2020, a change on the plus side, a simplified process, at least for that tax year, to claim a working from home deduction, $2 a day up to $400.
The CRA has made it pretty clear that what they announced is just for 2020. I think they want to assess what's going on next year and figure it out. Longer term, I think the big issue is going to be, will we simplify the rules if people start working at home more?
And with the country battling the second wave of the virus, many are calling on the government to extend the income tax deadlines for individuals and businesses like it did in 2020.
Anything could help, and this would be one of the things that the government should look at by just giving us a bit more time.
Restaurant owner Hasib Sarwari says his business took an even harder hit in the fall, and January 1st's increase to CPP contributions is another blow to his bottom line. But he says one thing that would help, more business tax deferrals like the ones offered in 2020, because he expects more tough months ahead.
Yes, the vaccines are out. There's hope at the end of the tunnel, but it might be a while before customers are going to feel confident going back to restaurants.
Sarwari says for small businesses like his, any relief could make the difference between survival and shutting their doors for good. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, still ahead in some provinces, 2021 is just a few hours away, and with the new year right around the corner, we'll show you how fellow Canadians are ringing in the new year safely. Stay with us. And thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Outdoor activities have seen a surge of interest this year, including bird watching. Bird enthusiasts say it's a great way for people to engage with nature in a positive way. And as Helen Pike is finding out, they're seeing a younger generation now joining the trend.
Birdwatching isn't exactly a vacation, but during the pandemic, it's a welcome escape for many. Caitlin Akuroff says she's really solidified an interest during the pandemic.
It brings on a sense of calm and happiness when I'm just out looking at birds or other wildlife. And it's definitely one of the best ways to get myself outside. Right now, without having a car, it's hard to leave the city a lot. So it's super accessible to still go and visit parks.
Going outside with a purpose has been motivating and fulfilling for Akuroff. She says now when she sees or hears birds on her walks, she wants to know more about them and has started taking photographs. Chris Brownshop owns the Wild Bird store in Calgary. She says after 2 decades of selling feeders, bird baths, and binoculars, the average age of her customer keeps going down.
Since COVID started, we're seeing that age group has now gone down to about 28 to 35, which was kind of the group we were trying to hit.
Brownshop says 2020 will go down in history as the best year for her business so far. Sales are up at least 40%, which she says is good because it means people are watching wildlife and appreciating birds more. Helen Pike, CBC News, Calgary.
And while we're still stuck in 2020, many nations across the world have already welcomed in the new year, including in Australia. Well, normally about 1 million people would pack the harbor there to watch the display there, the fireworks, and celebrate. But this year, of course, the pandemic restrictions were in place in Sydney, as if everywhere else, as fireworks lit up the night sky to welcome 2021. The area was fenced off, parks were closed, and most people just stayed home. And we'll be back with national news from across the country and international news from around the world on COVID and New Year's in just a few moments. Stay with us. Welcome back, and taking you to Ontario now. And that province's finance minister, Rod Phillips, has resigned from his cabinet post. It comes just days after the public learned that he'd traveled to the Caribbean island of St. Bart's this month, despite the province urging people to stay home during the pandemic. Well, Phillips returned to Toronto this morning and offered this apology.
It was a significant error in judgment, a dumb mistake, and again, I apologize for it. I regret it. But all I can do now is make that apology and move forward.
But this afternoon, the Premier announced that Phillips had since resigned. In a statement, Doug Ford said, at a time when the people of Ontario have sacrificed so much, today's resignation is a demonstration that our government takes seriously our obligation to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Well, as the year draws to a close, many Canadians found ways to celebrate from a distance. Some are even managing to ring out the old year with a sense of humor. Greg Rasmussen shows us how.
It was a long wait at BC's liquor stores, the impact of a last-minute decision to cut off alcohol sales at 8 p.m. on the last night of a difficult year.
Definitely a very different New Year's than last New Year's, but
I think we can survive.
Ushering in 2021 and turning the page, writing a new chapter.
A hoped-for pop-in sales has gone flat for bars and restaurants, also told to cut off the flow at 8 p.m. The biggest complaint, that the province waited until yesterday to change the rules, upsetting weeks of planning.
It was a blow to all of us, to all of our staff, to all of our guests, and to all of us as operators who've really been trying to create a safe place for people to be able to come and celebrate.
Where you live in Canada will dictate how you can celebrate. In Newfoundland, no dancing allowed at this bar, but the taps can still flow.
And at 12 o'clock, the place erupts and everyone's going around hugging and kissing each other. And obviously, we can't be doing that this year. So it's going to be, it's going to be different.
In Montreal, after a year of struggles, hopes for a few extra dollars in the till at the end of the night.
We expect to be pretty busy. We already have a lot of pre-orders, and I mean, it's the last day of the year, so.
And in Toronto, a favorite cover band won't be able to pack the house. Instead of a live show, they're streaming a performance from their studio.
We have a New Year's tradition that's been going for about 10 years now, and so this is a different one.
Also on the shelf for this New Year's in many locations, fireworks and other outdoor gatherings. Many have decided, just keep it simple.
We're gonna stay in with our family then. Just grab a cup of wine.
I'm just happy to see this year done. Take care. Happy New Year.
Many glad to say goodbye to 2020 with hopes for better days ahead. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
And at 6:20, you're looking at a live but soggy shot of downtown Vancouver with a rainy finish to 2020. Will the new year begin the same way that this one ended? Our Johanna Wagstaffe is back with the full New Year's forecast next.
The National with Eric Sorensen.
Good evening. New Year's Eve is still 3 days away, but Y2K has already claimed its first victim. The city of Seattle has canceled its big party, telling people it's safer to stay at home. But how real is the threat, and what precautions are being taken in Canada? Tonight, the CBC's Ian Hannamansing tells us why to care about Y2K.
It was supposed to be the Millennium event in Seattle, a massive street party at the foot of the landmark Space Needle. But that was before a suspected terrorist was arrested for allegedly smuggling bomb-making materials from Canada to the Seattle area, and before warnings from U.S. government agencies that terrorists might target major New Year's events throughout the United States. So today, Seattle's mayor announced his city's bash is canceled.
Although we are comfortable that Seattle is not a target, that is the advice that we've received from the FBI. They can't, at the same time, assure us that there's no risk.
But those millennial jitters haven't spread to New York City, home of the world-famous Times Square party.
We've done everything we can do to make it as safe as anything else in life is safe.
And in Canada, organizers of some of the major New Year's events have one word of advice: relax.
I think right now there's absolutely no reason to fear any threat whatsoever.
Doug Matthews is organizing the big party in Vancouver at Science World. Police have no concerns about terrorism here, but they will be on full alert for hooliganism.
There have been just these little bits and pieces of information coming our way about the young people that are planning on coming downtown. In the same way that there were little bits and pieces and rumblings of information that came out before the Stanley Cup riot.
And what about the Y2K bug? Those worries that computer glitches might, for example, shut off power at the stroke of midnight? Hydro companies across the country are trying to reassure customers.
Nothing is going to happen. It's going to be, everybody's planning to have it as business as usual.
But at least one Canadian insurance company has warned clients that to protect your electrical appliances, we suggest you unplug your TV, VCR, microwave, and computer on December 31st, 1999, in the event there is a power interruption. So it's not surprising that today some people were stocking up just in case.
Well, I'm pretty confident that not much is going to happen, but it was just a really good impetus, I think, to get organized for any kind of problem.
Call it the Y2K dividend. Never before have so many been so prepared for whatever calamity might hit long after New Year's is over. Ian Hannamansing, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Market Report is brought to you by Fortis BC. We've got even bigger rebates. Whoa! On select high-efficiency equipment for business, but only for a limited time.
Welcome back. The tiny Pacific nations of Samoa and Kiribati were the first places on the planet to welcome in the new year. Here's a look at the celebration in the Samoan capital as the clock struck midnight local time. In a curious twist, American Samoa is just a 1-hour flight away, but 25 hours behind. It's one of the last places to welcome in 2021. And let's bring back our meteorologist, Johanna Wagstaffe. Johanna, tonight for any fireworks, it looks like it's going to be pretty soggy out there in a fitting way, it sounds like, to start the new year as well.
Yes, I think if your plans involved a drink on the couch, snuggled in knitwear, that was a good call. It's starting out there right now. Mist right now, but it is going to ramp up, as I mentioned earlier. Let me show you the rainfall totals. By tomorrow night, the 24-hour rainfall totals across Metro Vancouver. You can see North Shore, Tri-Cities out towards the valley getting close to the 60+ millimeter mark. That's where we do have the rainfall warnings in place. Lesser amounts as we head down towards Richmond, but still a pretty soggy overnight and start to the new year. Here's the big picture. That big low sitting off our coast is pushing that front inland, bringing some snow to the valleys. Kelowna, Cranbrook getting some snow overnight tonight, and the Coquihalla getting some big snow. And we do have those snowfall warnings in place through central and northern sections of the province. We might see things lighten up tomorrow afternoon, but it's still a pretty wet day for Metro Vancouver. I'm going to see if I can find you some breaks in the long-range forecast as we get through to Saturday. We've got an even bigger system coming, but I think by Sunday, that's the best hope of seeing some sunshine. So pretty wet next couple of days. We might see some warnings for the weekend, hoping for some sunny breaks on Sunday, just in time for a lot of people to go back to work. So that's the forecast. But in general, 2020 was a year to remember or forget. Either way, one way to kick off the new year is through making resolutions and plans for the future.
Yeah, and we asked the Metro Vancouver residents what their hopes are for 2021.
For a tech company, right, and it's a lot of helping others and responding to emails and all this stuff, but you never really look out for yourself, right? So kind of maybe just put me more in the front end instead of the back end these days.
I hope that people have learned to be nicer to other people. We really learned the importance, I hope by now, of just being compassionate to other people.
My family is based in Asia, in the Philippines, so I would really like to be able to travel again and be able to see everyone. So that's one thing that I'm really hoping for.
I'm just waiting for the summers, go out, meet my family, meet my friend, hang out with them, go hiking. So I think everything will be in control.
The big hope, obviously, is hopefully, this will be over and everybody will be, back to normal and the new normal, and hopefully all the economy can go again.
I hope I can travel. Even just for the holiday season. Me and my fiance now, I keep saying girlfriend, so you gotta be careful with that. We usually just take the car up to Seattle and stay down there for a weekend or something, right? And that's just something we always used to do.
It's connections with people. And so, yeah, spending time with people, having some parties towards the end of next year would be great. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Just have a healthy life, my kids also to have a healthy life, and everybody to stay safe. That's it. Basically, that's most of what we require.
A good time for reflection on the past year and looking ahead. Johanna, do you have any New Year's resolutions for 2021?
A lot of those ring true, seeing more people, celebrating with more people, but I hope to hang on to how much time I spent outside. You know, it was a nice silver lining, I guess. So I'm hoping that's going to be a resolution, hanging on to that for next year. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's a good one, right? It's so precious, that time outside, we've learned. Mine's a little practical, just drink more water. Important to stay hydrated.
I'm going to do that too.
Yeah. All right,
that's a good one for all of us.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you so much, Johanna, for spending your New Year's Eve with us, and a Happy New Year to you. By the way, you can always find our newscast online at cbc.ca/BC. We know 2020 has been a year for the history books, and we wish you all the best for 2021. On behalf of all of us here at CBC, Happy New Year and have a great night.
Happy New Year.